Good everybody. My name's Ryan O'Connor. I'm the host of the Stag Roar podcast. I grew up in Invercargill in Southland, quite close to the Oreti River down there. And Southland's pretty awesome because you can do anything pretty easily. About 5 minutes from everywhere. If you're in Invercargill, and even living 5 minutes out of town was no biggie. So once you were in town, you could get up to whatever you liked. So this whole idea of the answer lying within is pretty poignant to my life. I've lived a very comfortable life. Have always had a inner voice which has driven me forward. From a very young age, I always had future goals. I remember even in kindergarten wanting to be a firefighter quite passionately, to the point of like wearing fireman outfit every day and living that. Then it moved on to being a PE teacher in Queenstown, being able to envision going skiing and snowboarding, doing adventure, outdoor education and things in summer, living that life, seeing those mountains. Growing up in Invercargill, you have the outlook. Like I said, I was near the Oreti River. My family were involved with rowing, so I was out there quite a lot. I didn't row myself. And I was a swimmer, so I was in the pool a lot. And driving into Invercargill from Ototara, you'd go over the Waihopai River. You'd see the Takitimu Mountains to the north, Longview near Riverton, Bluff Hill and Maui to the south, and Rakiura Stewart Island across Cook Strait, Foveaux Strait. And yeah, the vastness of Southland was powerful, and always sort of thought of going beyond those sort of boundaries, and just being connected to land and things like that just sort of gave me the ideas of adventure and possibilities. When I was 12, I saw my brother get his eyes tested, and that flicked a switch from the whole Queenstown PE teacher thing to something even more impactful, which looking back on retrospectively, my dad was a science teacher. I used to go into the school that he taught at and sit in the physics lab and the chemistry lab and see science. My mum was a microbiologist at Southland Hospital. Again, we'd go into the lab with her sometimes and play on microscopes and stuff like that. So to then see optometry as this sort of science experiment that helped someone sat pretty well with me, and I decided then at age 12 that I could do that, and I looked into what was needed to do that. So that sort of set a path for my journey through high school. At the same age, I was swimming competitively. I'd been swimming competitively the previous 4 years. I went to a national juniors when I was 8, and so I had sort of 4 years of goal process, mini goals to look forward to. About the same age, my granddad gave me the book The Winner's Bible, and I was sort of going through that in the lens of swimming and in the lens of soccer, football, to make teams and make sides and make times with swimming. And so I had this real belief that if I could set a goal and break that goal down, then I could achieve what it was that I wanted. Going through high school, it didn't sort of necessarily pan out. Even in those 4 years, I'd made it when I was 8. I narrowly missed out when I was 9 and 10, and then I made it to the juniors again when I was 11. And then at that time I was working my way to go to South Island Swimming Champs and the national swimming champs. I made the Division 2 that year, and come my first year of high school, I went to those championships and won the 200 metre breaststroke. I think I got a bronze in the 100 metre breaststroke at Division 2. So, I had, whilst Division 2 success all the same, and I achieved some goals. So that was a pretty powerful tool, swimming. The following year I went to nationals, finished within the top 10 of New Zealand, but didn't get to swim in the finals due to the size of the pool and international swimmers being there. That was sort of where swimming dropped off for me, but I picked up water polo. The following year I went back to the Div 2s despite not swimming anymore. I won a couple of medals there, including the 200 metre butterfly, which was pretty odd. And started playing water polo and was quite good at water polo with that swimming background. With football, I made the Southern Federation team when I was, 13, 14, 15, under 13. And then again was in the squads through 14 and 15. And didn't get to go to the nationals, and under 16s got to go to the nationals. That led into National Youth League for the following 2 years, and I was also playing men's grade football in Southland. I was part of the Southland Spirit team who were playing in the Southern League, so I was surrounded with sort of higher things. We had a wicked coach come out from Sunderland, John Herdman and John Hewitson also, and a number of players who had been in academy systems in the UK. That just sort of instilled within us in Southland that a level of professionalism, that you're accountable, you're responsible, and you own the results that happen, and you're the only one that can sort of improve the standing. It doesn't matter that we're in Invercargill, but that if we work just as hard and study just as hard and combine and come together just as hard, then we can achieve anything. So that was pretty awesome. That sort of development through the latter parts of high school, trying to find yourself as a person, dealing with relationships and stuff like that, was pretty tough. Didn't navigate that too well. That sort of weighed on my mind a bit, especially the end of sixth form. I didn't perform so well in school, and I had that goal of getting into university, and that was partially being distracted by the opposite sex, being sort of distracted by. That's right. We didn't have a soccer team playing in the Southern League that year, and so I played sort of more club level in Invercargill, and that sort of crept in a little bit of drinking as well, not excessively, but it was starting to creep in and be distracting. And I wanted to sort of get out of Invercargill. I wanted to go to boarding school in Christchurch and sort of level up, but thankfully I had sport there to keep me concentrated, so I was still pushing things hard. I was quite an angry 16-year-old in soccer. I got a number of yellow cards, and one of those games even got red carded for giving the referee a spray. But thankfully I had goals that kept me on track, and I had people that held me accountable, whether that's teams or coaches or my parents. Getting into water polo teams, going to a New Zealand secondary schools trial the following year, and a under 18s trial the following year, representing the South Island the following year. I think we represented the South Island that year too, up in Christchurch and things like that. Just having that sporting place to touch base with, and this goal of going to university was good. But then come university, it was a similar thing. Wasn't prepared for the realities of learning a wide scale of information. And that first term of university, I was again distracted by women and drink and living the dream and inverted commas freedom, and stuffed up those exams. Had a moment there of woe's me and terrible, but again touching base with, well, what do I want to do, what's important. I pulled myself together again, and with the help of again friends and family. So that wasn't really that was sort of support externally, allowing you to find that positive voice within. Just tell the one that says you're a failure and you're a fuck up to shut up. And having a series of goals and things that have been met in the past, and knowing that you're capable of things, meant that I could pull myself out of that position. So I worked pretty hard. The rest of uni, nearly got into optometry, but didn't. So then I had to go to Dunedin, and I did a Bachelor of Science, carried on doing what I was doing in Auckland, and did well in part of that in anatomy. Got into a program there. The people that I'd started playing rugby then. People that I lived with in Dunedin encouraged me to apply for this thing called the Pre-Academy, which was partially run by Otago Rugby, partially run by Otago Polytechnic, and that gave me some training skills and knowledge around rugby and training and getting strong and fit. Played for varsity blue in the Colts, and then was in the Killer Bees, so again reserve grade, but managed to get a call up into varsity A for a game as well. So that was quite rewarding, being my third year playing rugby. And was in this pre-honours course learning how to study, and at the end of that year graduated with a Bachelor of Science and got into optometry. So I moved back to Auckland. Bigger city, obviously. Rugby was difficult, playing reserve grade. Started playing more sevens, and was in Invercargill and met a rugby manager who just sort of planted that seed of like, I asked him about playing rugby sevens for Southland, and he was like, well, why not? Train and turn up and be ready and come and show the Southland guys how to play sevens. So through his help, there was just that sort of little sort of carrot ahead, and I trained and focused on uni and rugby and being fit, and came down and did myself proud and played in the qualification tournament for Southland, and was in that squad and almost made it to the Nationals with Southland. Did the same thing again the next year, and that was on my last year of uni, and just created this internal drive to finish uni well and finish rugby well and show up down in Southland the next year. Unfortunately, my timing with that was a little off. Didn't get to go to the qualification tournament, but played lots of games and things against Otago, and again I was the non-travelling reserve. So I moved to Christchurch after uni, and the girlfriend at the time encouraged me to do some psychotherapy, and that's like one of the biggest turning points in my life when it comes to this sort of the voice within. I was sort of curious as to what did I have depression. It'd been a heavy 7 years, and probably a heavy 5 years of high school before that. So what's that? 12 years of schooling and battling to this outcome of being an optometrist. I was a bit lost, and I was in Christchurch, didn't really know anybody. Had battled through university, had to go the long route. I finished up just outside of getting honours in optometry. I hadn't played any Premier Rugby in Auckland. I had been on travelling reserve twice for Southland and Sevens. Like I said, I'd had this trial for water polo. I forgot to say, there was with soccer, there was an opportunity to go to a thing called the Milk Cup, which was an international club tournament for soccer in Ireland. Manchester United have won it quite a few times. My friend from Invercargill got to go. My parents, obviously, it would have cost a lot, so they didn't allow me to go to that, and so I sort of had that chip in my shoulder, like, what if I'd gone to that? When I turned up to play football in Auckland, at Central United, it took a long time to get on the field, and I got on the field and scored a goal. And the next week I had a test on the Tuesday night, and so I couldn't go to training, and then didn't get to play the next week. Then a bunch of shit went down at the hall I was in, and so that's when I threw away soccer and started playing rugby, basically because I was angry, but it was a good way to let off steam. So I had this feeling of being an almost good enough, and then so now as I was a professional in optometry, it was that bit of self-doubt of like, was I good enough? And so I did 3 sessions, maybe 4 sessions of psychotherapy, and the outcome of that was these negative thoughts inside your head. Have a conversation with them, try and hear them, and have the discussion back with them like those voices were your friend coming to you with some issues. And how would you talk to your friend about these things? What you would do is you'd come up with alternative facts, and you'd look at things a little bit differently. So this was quite timely because I'd also started doing yoga in my last year of uni, towards the end of that, and had started looking, or hearing and touching on meditation. I think I read something on Buddhist philosophy that year as well, and just sort of observing the self had started to come in at the time as well. So all of this stuff sort of landed. That relationship wasn't great. I got given a book about relationships and this sort of 4 horsemen concept of when relationships break down, and observing interactions with people and things like that. Was also starting to get into personal development. And between uni and starting to work, I'd started journaling. So I've got my journal here. And my brother had sent me something to figure. It wasn't Simon Sinek, start with why, but it was around that. It was figuring out why you live, why you exist, basically. And it was kind of like doing that process of, so what do you do, how do you do it, and why do you do it? And then what I came up with was give people the opportunity to see the world to the best of their ability, improve people's lives. And along the way I also found the quote, "Mighty oaks from little acorns grow," which is fitting because that's our family crest. O'Connor's is an oak tree, and that sort of landed. And so I'd started journaling, and my brother sort of also got me to write down some things that were important to me. So I've got a page split into 2 here of location and optometry. So my job and where I live. and the things that are important to me about that. And I also have this thing called the Unofficial Goldman Sachs Guide to Being a Man, which I write in the front of all my journals. So that's just some funny touch point rules. In that break between uni and, finishing sevens and starting work, I also started exploring the idea of my ultimate goal, which is owning a deer farm, a commercial deer farm that also has like a restaurant and things. So I started looking at like meat processing, farming. I enrolled in a deer knowledge course and started doing that. Started journaling. So I was journaling at the time as well. So I had that yoga, meditation, Buddhist philosophy, some psychotherapy, and touching base with journaling at the time. And that was massive in observing the self and self-development and self-awareness. And realizing that negative thoughts are there, but they're just thoughts. They pass, they come, they go. They're not always true. They're the reticulating activating system to keep us safe, being aware of fear. But we can change our reticulating activating system to find positivity, find great things. So I sort of worked away. The end of that year, I made the Canterbury Sevens squad. That was good to sort of prove to myself again that I was capable, I was strong, I was powerful, I was fit, I was knowledgeable. I went and played at the Mount Sevens for Canterbury, did quite well there, but narrowly missed out to other players there. Again, I wasn't within a Canterbury system. I hadn't played club rugby in Canterbury that year, so I was a bit of an outsider. So I look back on that saying that was pretty good to get non-travelling reserve, and a few people within that squad have said that they missed me, and I probably would have been good there, but that's cool. Went on that year and played rugby for Christchurch, played some Premier Rugby, and also with the Div 2 team. We went to the final and won over Lincoln. I scored a try that game. Also got yellow carded. That was all right. Part of our success in that game was me targeting their open side flanker, to the point where we had a scuffle, and that's where I got yellow carded. But we ultimately won that game, and then I took off to Waikato, and got into the Waikato Sevens squad there briefly, not for very long. Again, outsider, they're like, who the fuck are you? And played a couple of seasons again, bracketing Premier and development, and both years we won development there. But I got concussion there, which sucked. It pretty much has ruined rugby, but time and family now kind of dictate that anyway. And whilst I was there, I got involved through a guy, Keegan Smith, who was the Roosters strength and conditioning coach. I'd been following him since 2013 on Instagram, and I got involved with a MLM program that was selling a ketogenic salt. So that's by the by. MLM's kind of, as a concept, is pretty shit. It's very parasitic, but within that, there's a lot of self-development, and I listened to a lot of books and looked at a lot of things that sort of hold me back, and the stories that you tell, so self-fulfilling prophecies, like, oh, I can't do that, so therefore you don't, type stuff. And again, it was it was a matter of like asking why a few times, of like, why can't you do that? Why isn't that possible? How would it be possible? And so that there has made me receptive to a lot of messages that come around. And so during that time, I sort of developed speaking to camera, doing Instagram lives, Facebook lives, talking on Instagram story, articulating what it is I'm passionate about, why I find things interesting and intriguing, and that sort of developed and brought about the start of the podcast, my drive to sort of move forward with optometry, develop this sort of real health focus, not let people tell me that how I'm doing it and approaching it is wrong, and I've had that. That it's meant that it's been an interesting journey career-wise, but ultimately I know in the end that I'm going to get to the place where I have my own practice, and that practice is going to sort of be game-changing, and it's going to be successful, and that's going to lead to that day of harm. So that's what sort of internally just keeps driving me along, and continuing to put out in the world a message of possibility. The tag of the podcast is Life Less Ordinary. Strongly believe in that. And of course my internal why is improving people's lives. So I'm looking to champion everyone that comes on the podcast, help to share their message, help to give them the confidence, help to give them a platform to talk to their story, talk to their beliefs, talk to their passion, find that passion, reiterate that passion, keep them going, hopefully grow the people that sort of reverberate back to them, which again brings them confidence, and show to people that life's not linear, life is hard, but when you persist, awesome things happen. And that again brings me back to the journal. Each day, well, not each day, most days I try and go through a journaling process, and I write the date, write start again. If you've watched the Richie McCaw movie, that's a powerful movie, by the way. He wrote start again in his journal. I've started of late writing win, which is what's important now. It comes from Aaron Walsh, if you come across Aaron Walsh. And the number's 33,000 and 86,400. That is like stock philosophy's memento mori, that the acknowledgement that you are going to die one day. And on average, we live 33,000 days. And so I think at 34, I've probably gone beyond a third, heading towards half of those. And so that sort of, again, there's another quote, sort of seize the day. And that's 33,000. And then 86,400 is how many seconds there are in a day. So again, 1 second of a shit thought, or a couple of minutes or seconds of a bad experience is nothing compared to 86,400. And so there's still opportunity within each day to continue. So those things are awesome reminders, awesome triggers, and are just an easy way to start writing in the journal. Added to that, again, this is sort of low impact, just getting in the habit of writing it down. I find a quote, and one that I wrote yesterday was, when it comes to change, goals and dreams, you have to bet on yourself. And that's from Mel Robbins. She's awesome. She has a concept of the 5-second rule. Again, this is something I learnt in that MLM. And that's probably getting out of bed is the biggest one. Count to 5 and make sure you're out of bed before that 5. There's other rules around, like not snoozing the alarm clock. Again, get up and get them done. And when you make that a habit, It's amazing what you can do and achieve, and block out the excuses. Don't let those excuses come in. Just have these rules and tools to act. Just on rules and tools, Tim Ferriss has an awesome book that's easily digestible despite its size, which is called Tools of Titans. And follow up with that is Tribe of Mentors, which are little small chapters, if you will, excerpts, interviews with certain people. Each one's different people or different topics that are quite short and easy to digest. And you can get through this book, and there's just so many awesome things to have in the back pocket to help you to carry on. So then this is where the real sort of journaling phase starts. 3 things to be grateful for. If you have read those Tim Ferriss things, you'll notice quite a crossover with the sort of 5-minute journal. So 3 things to be grateful for. 3 affirmations. So again, driving that reticulating activating system to look for positivity. If you don't know about the reticulating activating system, that's kind of like the concept of red Toyotas. If you look for red Toyotas, you'll see red Toyotas everywhere. Our family, we play yellow car when we're driving, actually anywhere, and we see yellow cars everywhere. It's the same if you're going to buy a new car or you just buy a new car, you'll see that car everywhere. That's your reticulating activating system looking for patterns. I go hunting. My reticulating activating system is looking for palatable tree species. On the weekend, there was coprosma berries everywhere. And at first I'd walked past heaps of them, and then I started noticing that they were in season. And man, I had an awesome feed because they were everywhere. And same with, I saw a hind simply by a pepperwood tree just moving, and then I saw her eating it. Then I saw her stand up, shake her head. I could only see her head, and then she walked away. But yeah, I saw that deer just based on the fact that my reticulating activating system was looking for movement, looking for shape of ears, twitching, noses, movement, all that sort of stuff. And the forest should be still, despite small breeze. The breeze creates like continuous pattern, whereas animal movement or human movement, that was also what I was looking for. There was lots of hunters in the bush. It's the raw. Looking for human movement is different to the normal pattern of things. So reticulating activating system helps you see differences or highlights things. And that's the same for writing down affirmations. You reinforce to yourself that you are these positive traits. And then my last thing is again a combination of those. So it's gratitude, but it's visualization for things that I would be proud of as an old man. So I the visualization is I'm sitting in my place on this farm in my 70s, 80s, and I'm looking back at the things that I'm grateful that I did, or how I behaved, or the morals that I want to have installed, my values that I want to have acted upon, and so that's the future gratitude that I write about in my diary, in my journal. And yeah, that keeps me going. It's internal. It means that I can't have arguments with myself. It means that I can analyze things fast. I can feel things fast. I can know when things are wrong to my core, and I can act on them. And yeah, it's easy to make decisions. Funnily enough, it gives me time between having something happen and acting on it. It allows me to be calm, and it allows for things to wash over me, to not react. I've had a few moments of late where I've had people end up talking at me, and it's allowed me to just sort of sit there and observe and have it wash over and not affect me. And in that moment, decide that this is not right, and I don't need to be part of this, and I need to carry on with my path forward, moving forward, and this no longer becomes part of it, and that's okay. Added to that would be the Kubler-Ross stages of grief. Knowing that is awesome, so that when you observe your behavior when you're going through a change, or you know that that's just part of the grief. So bargaining, sadness, depression, anger, and then acceptance. Being aware of those behaviors allows you to move through them and get into that acceptance zone, or back to that acceptance zone faster. Cool. I hope this is helpful. I'm on Instagram at Ryan O'Connor NZ and at Stag Ryan. That'll help you get to all the other channels I have. The Staggerel podcast is basically anywhere podcasts can be found. It's on YouTube as well. I think that might be Stag Ryan. I'm on Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn. Feel free to contact me. I'm an open book. I reply to messages. And yeah, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to people. I hope you found some value, and I hope you find those tools and strength within to have an awesome life. Watch that Israel Adesanya video. That is wicked. That I hope we all get to feel as powerful as he did when he won that title. How cool. Cheers.